This is White Plains Week, the weekly roundup of White Plains, Westchester, and world news. With John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com. Jim Benerofe, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. And me, Peter Katz, formerly with NBC, ABC News, and stations from Boston to Los Angeles. White Plains Week, what's happening? Who are the newsmakers? What's in store for the future? The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76, Verizon Fios Channel 45, and on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. White Plains, Westchester, and the world. John Bailey, the old Citizen Net reporter here, with Jim Benerofe, the dean of the White Plains School of Journalism, an icon of journalism. Right. Headlines, please, Mr. B.
Now the headlines for the week of May 3rd, 2019. Westchester County and Standard Amusements Playland management up in the air. Park set to open May 11th. $125 million in upgrades required. 300 apartments proposed for 1 Water Street at White Plains Railroad Station on Ferris Avenue. The Boulevard on West Post Road says it hopes to break ground this year. Robert Weitz of RPW Group analyzes today's real estate markets in residential and office opportunities. Ticks make outdoor recreation a risk. Prepare accordingly. A White Plains icon, City Limits Diner, will be celebrating its 25th anniversary in May. Sesame Street marks its 50th year on the air. County gives away minnows to rid private ponds of mosquitoes. Another icon, Chewbacca of Star Wars, joins the force.
Thank you, Jim. And of course, we go to the story that broke last week, that things are slightly broken between Standard Amusements and Westchester County over Playland. Slightly broken. We don't know if they'll be able to patch it up or not. And here in this video from his press conference, County Executive George Latimer tells you why.
Yeah, here's the situation. If you go back and you look at the arrangements, there was a capital amount that the county was obliged to spend, and there was a capital amount that Standard had to spend. And my understanding was at the time that the contract was signed, there was an estimate of the amount of capital that would be needed to bring the park up to speed. Subsequently, that amount of capital estimated has grown fairly substantially. I think it was in the vicinity of 70 million. Correct me, any of the legislators who were active in that negotiation. Now I think our best estimate is that the capital is in the vicinity of 125 million, of which 42 we have budgeted and appropriated, and now we have to execute those projects. Some of them are things you would see, and some of them are things you wouldn't see, but they're necessary for the infrastructure. But if you go back to the Standard Amusement contract, every dollar of capital beyond what was the initial, roughly speaking, 30 and 30 division belonged to the county. Am I correct at that? Yeah. Every future capital project. So whatever capital needs that would come, even though somebody else is managing the park, the county would be on the hook for it. So in essence, we're getting, or would have gotten under this arrangement, $30 million worth of capital. All the other capital needs that might ever come still fell on the county's shoulders. And so our argument is, we're not managing the park, so to the extent that the decisions of pricing and upgrading things are beyond our control, but we're responsible, in essence, for the bulk of the capital either way, with or without this situation. And then let me also add that there is an operating expense that we would have on an ongoing basis. This original deal structured that the county would have to pay a certain amount for additional police services down there, and for certain benefits of certain employees. And that original arrangement and discussion represents an expense that we're going to have. If you go back to the original reason, why do you contract with a private company? The argument was made at the time, this will save Westchester County money. Well, I'm not quite sure how that does that.
No, I don't know how it does it either. In fact, on this very program, when this original standard amusements deal was proposed by the Estorino administration, we said, wait a minute, I don't think we're really getting enough money for this. You remember those days?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we said that. I mean, what's new? Right. Exactly.
I mean, I think the county could run Playland by itself and do it very well. I mean, they need some advice on what to do and how to do it. And I think that they can work on the upgrades over a period of time. But I really think that there's a lot of things that could be done at Playland that the county can do as well as, or maybe better, than an outside contractor.
Well, they have about till May 28th to kiss and make up with Standard Amusements on this issue. But what was also said at the conference by John Nona, if we could have that slide, please. Mr. Nona pointed out that the county would not share in profits until Standard recouped its initial investment of the, say, the 33 million, should the deal be worked out. And what is involved in the 125 million capital needs? Joan McDonald said it would be infrastructure needs. In fact, the switch box building is one of the big parts of it, and colonnades, parking lot, all structures in the park, and the county would have to pick up the bill. And this was really shocking. It was the first time we were able to get actual specifics of what the capital improvements are. And it's a lot of money, and it's not all to be done in 1 year, and they have to go through the process, and they have estimates on what it is, which will grow, ladies and gentlemen, I guarantee. But, so what is happening here?
What is happening? It's not entirely clear what's happening.
No.
I don't know. I think there's other things that the county might do. They might be able to issue recreation bonds.
There's a thought. Right.
I think there's a lot of things. I have a lot of ideas for Playland. I did not see Standard Amusement's final plan. Some of the things they were doing, I like. Some I didn't like. I mean, they were talking about getting rid of the pool altogether, which I think is a total big mistake. And let's put it this way. I do a lot of swimming, and I've done a lot of swimming at a lot of different places. And swimming is very popular.
Right. Well, what they did was the legislature balked at that, because that was one of the big reasons that Standard Amusements wanted to get rid of the pool, was they wanted to put in a catering facility that would work all year round and make money for Playland during the off season. But there was too much protest about leaving the pool, so the legislators agreed they would do the pool.
Well, I would, and
they agreed to pay for it.
I would put in an indoor and outdoor swimming facility, and I've got a pretty good idea of what to do as far as that's concerned, because, well, I'm a member of Lifetime Fitness over on Westchester Avenue, and I can tell you they are getting to a point where they're pretty crowded.
Yeah, they were building a new pool, too.
Yeah.
Right. So it should be open this summer. Now, what we also learned in that news conference, that there's been little contact between County Executive George Latimer and Nick Singer, the principal of Standard Amusements. The last time he met with him was in early December, and Mr. Singer did write the county a letter saying he was willing to meet with them. I have this picture of that letter right here. And they also gave them a 30-page executive summary of a master plan. Here's a shot of some of the pages from that summary coming up. There we are, and it shows you, from what I could tell, a rough sequence of what they planned to do, but of course there was more detail which we haven't seen. But this is where it stands now. I think they got to get back together, go down to Molino's, and see how can we work this out. And otherwise, it's going to be the same park. There's a lot of money, taxpayer money, that's going to have to be spent on it. And we're right back where we started, what, 5, 6, 7 years ago? Incredible. Now, some other development news. 1 Water Street. Here's a picture of that. There we go. That was the building that Matt Calley purchased recently. Sold recently. And now the outfit that they sold it to wants to build 300 apartments there, and Matt Calley is going to do a swap with the White Plains Urban Renewal Agency to give them more frontage, and they're going to build 300 apartments, probably raise this building. This comes to our friend Peter Katz, who covered this story for the Westchester County Business Journal. We thank Peter for giving us the details on that. Now the next, we heard some rumors this week, and we talked with the principals of the Boulevard, the development by Grid Properties, scheduled for the empty space shown here in 2015 on the west end of Post Road. And they were going to build on Post Road the series of shops, restaurants, and a fitness center, plus on the Maple Avenue side, townhouses. And their principal said they are having some success in making retail deals to fill out the complex, and he said with luck they may be able to break ground towards the end of this year. So this is good, because this has been lying there for 5 years during this recession period. And I would also say that development was a big topic on a People to Be Heard this week, where you and I interviewed Robert Weiss and his son Andrew Weiss on the future of RPW, and Mr. Weiss talked about the secret of his success of his 15 properties that he's developed in Westchester, and he also said what the market looks like now.
When you are a user of all this, and you think like a user, and you think in a way that what can we give to those prospective tenants that they can get somewhere else at a very competitive price, at the end of the day, you rent space.
How do you see the office market in Westchester? I know most of the buildings you have, if not all of the buildings you have, are really Class A office space. Do you find that market strong, or is it medium, or what?
The market is probably as good as it's been in the past 20 to 30 years. And the reason for that is in a way simple. What's happened to Westchester, and I'll make it really, really short, Westchester was overbuilt in the 70s and early 80s. And there was so much product that when companies start moving out, Westchester always had a very high vacancy. And even though the Westchester market grew in terms of companies that were growing within Westchester or companies moving to Westchester, it was never able to fill all the vacancy. In the past 5 years, we have seen, 5 to 10 years, we have seen a number of buildings that have been taken out of the office market. So when Lifetime Fitness came in, when Weckman is being built now, when Toll Brothers is building, those are all buildings that were office buildings that do not exist anymore. So the estimate is that there are several million square feet that have come off the market. So all of a sudden your supply is being reduced. When you reduce your supply, your vacancy obviously reduces with it. So we have a couple of buildings that are 100% leased. We haven't had 100% leased buildings in a very long time. It's been very unusual that a tenant will come in and you have to turn them down because you just have no space in that building. So that's a very good message for Westchester.
Now, the situation along Westchester Avenue, there are a number of properties leading into White Plains on the southern side of Westchester Avenue that are now subject to the new White Plains zoning that allows residential development. Do you think there will be more interest in those properties to do that?
I don't know if there will be more interested to do residential projects in those properties. There is definitely more interest in building residential throughout the county. It's happening in Yonkers, it's happening in New Rochelle, it's happening in Mount Vernon, in White Plains, in Harrison. The new zoning that White Plains created, which 1133 is part of, for 1133 is perfect because we have almost 80 acres. That's a very large site, one of the largest sites in the county. We have a very large building, 600,000 feet, but we are able to build another 300,000 feet and really not affect the office building in any way. I don't know if the other buildings that are part of that zoning will work like that, but it could be. I don't know if how much of that zoning, by the way, was created many years ago, so it's not a new zone.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right to point that out. There isn't that much interest there.
But and I'll say, I give kudos to the town legislation. I mean, I think it was passed 12 years ago, but it makes, at least for our project in particular, it makes so much sense. I mean, you gain so much efficiency by having office and residential on the same lot where you can share things like parking, you can share things like shuttles, daycare centers, all the amenities. There's just so much synergy there, and I think this is going to be one of the first in the region, and I'd imagine that you're going to see a lot more of it in the years to come.
And I thought those were some really cogent observations by someone who really seems to turn things to gold with his touch and his foresight. What did you think of the interview?
I thought it was very good. I think that there is, like Andrew was pointing out, there is a great deal of synergy between having office space next to residential. Also, what he did not specifically mention is that people might be working in the office and living next door, which is really convenient.
Yeah, certainly.
And I think that it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the years.
Yes, as we, with another 300 apartments scheduled for White Plains and 1 Water Street, I mean, I think that's approaching 7,000 apartments in White Plains.
Proposed. Yeah.
Yes, proposed. And we await. we await shovels hitting dirt. Yes. But that'll happen, but in a way, it's good that it's spaced out. Not everything will come on the market at once. If it does, they have a problem.
Yes.
Yes, but as too much supply is not good.
Right.
And now, in a legislative development from the county, today, at the time when we are videotaping this program, the County Board of Legislators has passed a measure that will give victims of domestic violence the ability to take, quote, safe leave, unquote, from their jobs. This new law grants victims of domestic violence or human trafficking up to 40 hours of paid leave to attend or testify in court proceedings related to their situations, to move from an abuser's residence, or to speak with lawyers or other advisors. Employers may ask for reasonable documentation that safe time has been used for those purposes, and County Executive Latimer was about to sign that. It's probably signing it at this very minute that we're taping, but sorry we could attend that. This is very important, but that stuns me. You know, all my years when I worked, if you had something like was a personal litigation, it was not a problem. You got paid, but I was a salaried personnel. And I had no idea that employers would have this much of a problem with helping people take time out to go to court and whatever this says. So another piece of thoughtful legislation by the county, which has been a hallmark of this administration. Now, coming up is something, it's an unpleasant subject, and it's ticks. This is the black-legged tick, which is out and about in the forests around and parks in Westchester County, and this is the tick that's bite can cause Lyme disease. The larvae that are out now are so small they're compared to a dime. This photo comes from Westchester County Health Department, and then they grow like that. However, I have noticed, friends, that when I pass the Bear Mountain Road on the way up to Yorktown, that on the weekends, many people are hiking in the woods and they're wearing shorts. This is not a good thing because that's how a tick gets on you. And I urge you to dress warmly, use tick repellent, which you can get. The county advised that. In fact, there's a story on my website about it, and you can click on links there to find out more about ticks. This is not pleasant. I know 2 persons in my family who have gotten Lyme disease, and if you don't catch it right away, like within the first 36 to 40 hours, you have a problem. And if it goes on for 6, 7, or 8 weeks, I mean, you're affected by it in your lifestyle. This is a disease that has to be highlighted more, as does measles. Good grief. I mean, you know, you have children, I have children. I would never think not to have them vaccinated against something if there was a vaccine available. It's irresponsible, and measles can kill a newborn. They can kill children under 2 years with the high fever that measles runs. I mean, education is the key, and I don't care what dogma you follow, the dogma is wrong. You know, to say you shouldn't have this shot for religious reasons. There is no reason for that. And I'm sorry, it's such a... You had measles, didn't you?
Yes.
I did too. It was a very unpleasant time. And it goes for about 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Before it goes away. I've never been sick that long in my life, except when I had the measles and the chickenpox. Now, speaking of another pest, the county on Saturday is giving away minnows at the airport, absolutely free, if you have a pond in your yard, or if there are ponds near you, you can go to the airport, go to the county health department, and or give them a call, and they will tell you how to get there. It's right off the loop at the airport. You can go in, bring a bucket, and so that they can put the minnows in the bucket. They're in a nice little plastic container, and it really worked quite well. I think, who introduced that? I think, was it the Storino administration? Was it?
Don't know.
I don't know, but it was a good idea, because that's another thing you don't want to get is this
Mosquitoes.
the mosquito. What is that disease that they carry?
I keep thinking encephalitis, but is it?
No, it's not. But be that as it may, the mosquitoes are going to be really bad this year because of all this water. Now, a nice story. City Limits is turning 25 years in business, and you are Mr. City Limits. Tell us about City Limits.
I think I was probably at the opening.
You probably were.
And they're having a 25-year celebration.
Yeah.
And they're selling raffle tickets, and they're supporting, funds are going to go to support two charities, Feeding Westchester and Family Services of Westchester.
Mm-hmm. What a nice idea.
Yeah, and I think that May 24th, I believe, is the date that I guess that's when the culmination of that.
And it's really one of the best places to have lunch in White Plains because of the conviviality of it. It feels cordial. There's lots of chatter in the air. It has a vibe. It had more of a vibe before they modernized it and made it more country clubby, but things change, and that has caught on too. And it's what can I say? It has a vibe you can't match anywhere else, and you can hear yourself talk in the restaurant.
Yes.
You really can. And there's very few restaurants today, a lot of expensive restaurants too, that are so acoustically poor that the din but City Limits doesn't hear that. So have that. So if you want to work out a secret deal, George, Nick, are you listening? Go to City Limits and work it out. A lot of people have over the years. And another anniversary this week, Sesame Street, 50 years on the air, and there is some media stars of the past. Scoop the News Doc of White Plains Week, and Howdy Doody congratulating Ernie of Sesame Street. And how did they congratulate them? They named 63rd Street Sesame Street this week in New York, and I thought that was a nice gesture. 63rd Street is where the Sesame Street studios are. And did your children watch it?
Oh
Yeah, everybody
of course,
did.
yes,
That's where
absolutely.
our children
I
are
even
so civilized, right?
I wasn't a kid, but I watched it.
Oh, it was for adults. I really loved Cookie Monster. He was my favorite. Sad note, Chewie passed away. Peter Mayer, who played Chewbacca in Star Wars, died this week, and now he is with the Force, a man whose face you never saw. He was always in that great costume, but Chewbacca was the real Force. Yeah. He really was, and Peter is with the Force. John Bailey, Jim Benerofe for White Plains Week, and Peter Katz, good night.
This has been White Plains Week, news and commentary about White Plains, Westchester, and the world. The views and opinions expressed on this program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week, produced by White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, and presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76 and Verizon Fios Channel 45. You may view White Plains Week anytime on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. For White Plains Week, this is Peter Katz speaking.